This is not a debate.
Say my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
but
television.
But the people
I'm
on television saying their dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice
We'll
President
find
Harris.
out.
This is definitely not a debate.
29%, tens of thousands of people, tens of thousands of people unnecessarily died.
Don't lie about it. He put the graphic up there. Don't lie about it.
Unnecessarily
you don't need to lie about it.
Because your policies.
Just understand.
You're lying
you don't
about
need to
your
lie
record.
about it. No, it's not.
You were a lockdown governor.
No, it's
you
not.
locked down.
One at a time. Gavin Newsom, finish your thought.
The presidential debates of the past few election cycles have been very memorable, but not in a good way. Between snarky remarks, insults, and constant interruptions, the presidential debate has been reduced to little more than trivial arguments between candidates. Most questions go unanswered, and the ones that are answered are often lies. More importantly, the viewers copy this debate style when talking about politics with friends, family, and even random social media users, causing the same emotional, meaningless debates to occur in public. These political arguments are not debates, they are disbates. I will get back to disbates, but first we need to talk about what debates are and how they got to this point. Debate comes from the old French word débat, around the 13th century. This held the meaning of two people discussing a subject. This would carry into English not long after, keeping the same meaning. However, this is also where it began its turn into politics. As Parliament became more important in the governing of the United Kingdom, debate became enshrined in parliamentary rules. While on paper it still had the same definition, the word lost an important context. Debate was no longer to collaborate, but to argue. No longer was the focus on the people debating, but the ever-important audience. It became a tool of politicians to pass their legislative agendas. Debate didn't truly become political in nature until it ventured into American politics. The 1960s was a time of great change in the United States, and that was no truer than for the presidential debate at the top of the decade. For the first time, every American with a television can see not just the debate, but the two people doing the talking. While this debate is often remembered for a changing medium and making Nixon lose due to his 5 o'clock shadow, this has also represented a dangerous turning point for both debate and American politics. Gone were the days of reading a debate summary in the newspaper or only being able to hear the arguments of the candidates secondhand. Now it was all about impressing the audience, often at the cost of the other politician. Many people remember how Reagan deflected criticism about his age in the 1984 debate by making everyone laugh. But very few people realize that he did so by deliberately reflecting the opposite criticism onto Mondale.
Mr. Truitt, and I want you to know that also I will not make age an issue of this campaign. I am not going to exploit for political purposes my opponent's youth and inexperience.
An ad hominem attack on his opponents. Still, by today's standards, that's fairly tame. Going back to the 2024 presidential debates, it's hard to say that any of the three candidates in the debates even answered the questions. In fact, just to avoid the candidates interrupting each other, both CNN and ABC had to remotely mute the candidates' microphones. Of course, even with the mics off, that didn't prevent any of the candidates from taking advantage of the camera to shoot nasty looks and laughs while their opponents spoke. What was supposed to be a question about age turned into a competition about who had a lower handicap in golf.
That's the biggest lie. He's a 6 handicap of all.
I was an 8 handicap.
Yeah.
8. But I have, you know how many?
I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
Okay, let's
not
act
like
children. President Trump, we're going to
21
Let's not.
These are signs of a wider issue in America, which is the inability to communicate because of political polarization. Regularly, both left and right demonize each other while also trying to ignore their own failures.
And so with all due respect to being lectured on some of these topics, Ron DeSantis is not the one I'm going to be listening.
This is a map of San Francisco. There's a lot of plots on that. You may be asking, what is that plotting? Well, this is an app where they plot the human feces that are found on the streets of San Francisco. And you see how almost the whole thing is covered.
Debate left politics several decades ago, leaving only tribalism in its place. No politician wants to admit that they're responsible for polarizing their audience. After all, it's in their benefit to have a politically entrenched voter base as it increases their chance of winning elections. The remaining blame for polarization in America lies squarely on social media. Most of the time, social media platforms aren't pushing for a particular ideology, rather, whatever will get the most user engagement. This means encouraging people to go on long, emotionally driven political arguments with strangers as it is good for business. It also means that feeding users content that affirms their already held beliefs is common practice, even if it means that those people form echo chambers, which increase political polarization. Now that you hopefully understand the problem with debate in America, I can now also offer a solution. It comes in the word disbate. You won't find this in any dictionary, so I'll explain briefly. The key difference is using the prefix dis, meaning lack of, instead of de. This word can be used to refer to an anti-debate. Where a debate would be constructive and have resolution, a disbate would be full of emotional provocation and go on without a conclusion. The purpose of this word is simple: to denounce debates that are polarizing and devoid of reason. Only by illegitimizing all the insults and biases seen in political debates today can we encourage better debates, not just so we can reduce political polarization in the United States, but more importantly so we can communicate and collaborate about the real problems we face today. Next time a politician hurls an insult at their opponent, call it out for what it is: a disbate.